Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
We say one thing, people hear and understand something else. And how to deal with this. So a couple of points. First of all, as with any of those sorts of things, misunderstandings, miscommunications, personality problems, conflicts with people, a good general rule of thumb is, if it's only one person in my community who has that problem, chances are the problem is with that person or in our interaction. But if the problem is with lots of people, chances are the problem's in me. So if I say, God, there's this person in my office or this neighbor that I have or this person in the community, and whatever I say, they misunderstand, they take it the wrong way. And that's the only person in my life that I have that problem with. Okay, chances are it's an issue with that person. Or an issue in our energetic or linguistic communication. But if I find that pretty much wherever I go, I have communication problems with people, that's when it's really important to look within and say, what is it about my style of communicating that makes people not understand? And there's a lot of different aspects here. Number one, communication is not only verbal. Communication is also in our body language. And so we know, for example, even with animals, with dogs, people who have dogs as a pet, if you say to the dog, "You beautiful, wonderful, amazing animal," that dog's going to go, right? I mean, the dog thinks it's just been blasted and scolded and you're going to kick it. And if you say to it, "You horrible, worthless, stupid animal," the dog is going to go, and it's going to come and want to get petted because it understands I'm about to get some loving. Now, you could say, well, clearly the dog doesn't understand anything because I've just told it it's stupid and worthless. Why does it think it's going to get some love in here? Because my tone is the tone of love. And in the first case, even though my words were very nice, my tone was such that it conveys anger and fury and maybe even violence if I'm a violent person or my dog is used to violence. Now that's a very drastic example, but the same thing happens in our communications. Raise your hand if you're married or you've ever been married. Here, raise your hand. Okay, great. So most of you. So if your husband or wife seems a little bit off and you say to them, "Honey, what's wrong?" And they say, "Oh, nothing." And they walk out and slam the door. Okay? How many of you are going to believe that nothing's wrong? Anybody? We know, obviously, something is wrong. Now, they've told us nothing. They've said nothing. But their demeanor, their actions have said something completely different. So we know, there is a problem here. So a lot of times with communication, the reason that we may find that we have miscommunications with people is our words say one thing, but our demeanor, our body language, our actions, our tone of voice, whatever it may be, says something completely different. So that's where it's really important to be honest with ourselves. is what I'm saying really honest? So if I'm the one who says nothing is wrong, I know that wasn't honest. I know something's wrong. Something's not wrong. I'm not going to walk out and slam the door. Clearly something is wrong. But I'm playing a little game here. Maybe the game is I want them to keep coming. Oh, tell me, honey. Oh, what is it, honey? Oh, what did I do wrong, honey? Maybe I want them to follow me. Maybe I'm angry at them. Whatever it may be, I know that I'm not being honest. And the way that you know that is if I say nothing and the other person says, well, okay, then what's for dinner? How am I going to respond? What the hell? Can't you see? Don't you know I'm upset? But you just said nothing's wrong. But you know something's wrong. And then we get into these spats. I've said nothing is wrong. The person took it at face value, started now asking me what's for dinner. Now I'm doubly angry because not only was I upset in the first place, but now I feel ignored. I feel like nobody cares about me. Clearly I'm upset. Yeah, I lied about it, but clearly I'm upset. Can't you tell? And so if we're having communication problems, we have to first ask ourselves, is what I said really honest? And if not, then let me make sure that I'm actually speaking the truth. Because if it's really the truth, it's going to be in sync. My tone of voice, my words, my body language, my actions, everything is in sync. But if what I'm speaking is not true, that's when things get out of sync. The last important piece here, though, because this happens a lot of times when we embark on a spiritual path, and we're trying to explain it to our family members, let's say, or our old friends, people who don't understand spirituality on that level. And that becomes a slightly different problem, but I'm going to go there for a minute because we're speaking what to us is truth, and they cannot hear it. Why? Because it sounds crazy to them. I know when I first came here, and my parents did not understand what was going on. And they kept saying, why? What is it that you see there? What is it that you do there? What is it that makes you want to live there? Well, for me, the highest truth was God. The highest truth was I was experiencing God. The highest truth was Ganga, this sacred river. The highest truth was Puja Swamiji, my guru, in whom I was experiencing the divine. And I would talk to my parents and I would say, I see God. Now, when I said that, what they heard was, she's been brainwashed. She's gone crazy. She's joined a cult. Okay? Now, it didn't matter how many times I said, I see God. Every single time what they heard was, she's been brainwashed. Why? Because that's just not part of their world. And in most of the particularly Western world, people join religious organizations. They start talking about seeing God. They leave their life behind. What does it mean? It means they've been brainwashed and joined a cult. And so that's what they heard. And what I learned very early on was a wonderful, wonderful truth, which was I kept speaking my highest truth because to me, that was what I was called upon to do. So every time they talked to me about India and why I wanted to be here, I would talk about seeing God. And every time I said that, I could see their faces get all red and worried. And I knew what they were hearing was gone crazy, joined cult, daughter's gone, lost her, like that. And what I finally realized was, if I knew they couldn't hear it, it wasn't truth for me to keep speaking it. If my highest truth, let's call it the letter A. Let's just take the alphabet for a moment. Let's say highest truth is A. But every single time I say A, you hear C. And I know that. I know that if I say A, you hear C. Well, then speaking A is no longer speaking truth, because I know that what's going in your ears is C. But then, if I speak B, now B is closer to truth than C is, right? B is closer to A than C is. And if I speak B, maybe you can hear B. And for me, B was the seva. B was the children. B was the schools. B was the medical care programs. B was all of the humanitarian programs that we're running here. So I could talk to them about the children and the schools and the women and the healthcare, and they could hear that. And what I realized was that even though it wasn't my highest truth, because A was my highest truth, speaking B was actually more true than speaking A. Because when I spoke A, they heard C. And if I spoke B, they could hear B. And so it became necessary for me, instead of trying to speak A and to ram it into them, knowing it's not going to work, for me to speak something that they could actually hear and understand, which also is true. It just wasn't my highest truth. But it was a truth they were able to hear. And I mention that point as well because a lot of us, as we're on this path, will find people don't understand. Well, is there a way you can explain it to them that they can understand? And it may not necessarily be the fullness and the most complete highestness of your ecstatic experiences. But is there a piece of it you can speak that they hear, that they understand? If so, speak that. Because slowly, slowly, slowly through that, you can bring them to A. But A is not something that you can convince someone of. It's something they have to feel. And as long as what they're hearing is cult and brainwashing, nobody's in the mood to feel anything. But if they can hear children and schools and women and healthcare and trees, well, they relax. They open up. And then slowly, slowly, they start to be able to feel A.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. The Mahamrityunjay mantra, which you hear so frequently. It's one of the most sacred mantras that we have, and it's something that's chanted at so many different ways, different times of life. We chant it every evening in the sacred yagna ceremony that we have. But there's a piece of it that for me is especially important, that I was reminded of tonight as you were chanting it. Because a lot of times when we're embarking on our spiritual path, it feels very much like it's this grit your teeth very hard, abstain from this, abstain from that it's this path of lots of sweat, perspiration, difficulty. And the mantra, I won't use too much time tonight, but it's a beautiful teaching, because it speaks about, oh God, make me like that fruit that is so ripe that it automatically disengages itself from the vine. Meaning, when we talk about that sense of detachment on a spiritual path, and we talk about abstaining from or not being attached to, whether it's material possessions, whether it's particular types of relationships, whether it's just the general stress and strain of a daily life. It's not make me detached from it through great pressure and lots of work and, pull me off that. Because as we know, that usually doesn't work. We know that repression and suppression and denial are just not things that a powerful spiritual path can ever be rooted in. It has to be rooted in a growing, a blossoming, a flowering on the inside that automatically renders us unattached to the rest. And this mantra is so beautiful because it speaks exactly of that. Most things that you have to pull off a vine, from flowers to fruit to zucchini to pumpkins, whatever it is that grows on a vine, most things when we pull them off, they have to be really, then you get the pumpkin off the vine, then you get your zucchini off the vine. But the fruit that is spoken of in this mantra is a fruit that actually, when it becomes fully ripe, automatically disengages itself from the vine. Automatically. No pulling necessary, no violence necessary, no sweat and strain necessary. Doesn't require someone to come in and just, it happens automatically. And it reminds us on our spiritual path, instead of working on separating yourself from the vine, work on making yourself ripe. Work on enabling yourself to be so ripe, so ready on the inside, that all of the rest, whether it's attachment to possessions, whether it's greed, whether it's sexual desire, whether it's anger, whether it's all of these things that we know we're not supposed to have on our spiritual path, that aren't supposed to be consuming us. But instead of doing battle with them, instead of trying to fight them off, work instead on getting yourself so ripe that automatically that vine, those chains, just automatically falls off. And it's such a beautiful reminder, because very frequently the mantra gets chanted when people are passing. They're going to pass into death. Or if somebody is sick and we actually want to chant a mantra to keep them healthy. It's used in that way as well. It's used in that way that keeps us anchored in the self, in the soul. So whether it's going to inhabit a healthy body or whether it's going to leave the body, either way, it anchors us in the soul, in the spirit, in that third eye, when it begins by saying, oh, the God of three eyes, right? Why are we focused on the third eye? Because it's that eye, that way of seeing truth. That's what the third eye is. This chakra here, this energy center here where we put our tilak, where you all got the nice red tilak that somebody's put on everybody in the group. Why do we do it there? We do it because it reminds us, oh yeah, I don't only have these two eyes that I see physical world from, but I actually have this eye through which I see the truth. These eyes show us objects. I can see a physical object. I can see a piece of paper. I can see a pillow. I can see my clothes. I can see all of you sitting here. But this eye is what enables us to see truth from falsehood. Means it's the eye that enables me to see the divine. So instead of just seeing an object, I'm actually able to see the truth of that being, which is divinity. So instead of seeing you as beautiful young woman or as handsome man, I'm going to see divinity. These two eyes just see beautiful woman, handsome man. But this eye sees, divinity. Divinity, 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 divinity. So the mantra brings us into connection with that truth of the divinity of who we are, of the divinity of the world, through which we become so ripe, so full, that our attachment to things that are not true, not real, automatically falls off. So as you're embarking on a spiritual path, it's a beautiful mantra to keep chanting. If you can't memorize it all in the beginning, don't worry, you can get it in writing and chant along with it, or just listen to chants of it, because it reminds me, oh yeah, let me become ripe. Let me not think that the spiritual path is this path of pushing and pulling and fighting, but it's a path of self-ripening, such that automatically the chains that bind us, they fall off, and I'm free. So thank you for bringing us into that beautiful re-remembrance. We'll begin, as always, with a question that comes in advance, and then open it up to any questions here. I am 22 years old, and I've been trying to save my parents' marriage and family problems until I realized that is not my role. So I've distanced myself from them after that, but now I feel that I need them. How do I come to terms with this, and how do I find a balance? So it's very important, of course, for children to know that their role never can be to keep their parents together. It's something that children always struggle with. Whenever parents get divorced, children always feel like, I should have done something. I could have done something. If somehow I were better, my parents wouldn't fight. And this is true even if parents don't get divorced. If parents just fight but they stay together, kids always feel it's my fault. So of course the first piece is not your fault. And no, you're not going to be able to hold them together. That being said, as we get older, as we're no longer young children, but this person says they're 22, sometimes as we grow, we actually do develop insight, awareness, understanding that absolutely can help our parents. Not that it becomes our responsibility to solve their problems and keep them together, but we may absolutely develop a relationship with our parents in which we can offer something, in which maybe we have a clarity that they don't have. And so feel free, in whatever way you can, to help them. Sometimes a child is the only one who can help, because a child is the only one who, and not a young child, but an older child, who can actually see both sides of it. Most people don't see the mess that goes on in our homes. Right? I mean, people are fighting and then someone rings the doorbell and suddenly it's like, hello, hi, how are you? We don't let the neighbor who's just come by know that 30 seconds ago people inside the house were on the verge of killing each other. Somebody calls on the phone. We were screaming at each other. Phone call comes and suddenly it's, hi, yeah, we're fine, how are you? So sometimes an adult child may actually have the insight that's needed to help parents. So even though it's not your responsibility, even though it's not your role, even though in many cases, no, you're not going to be able to solve it, if you are an adult, like you're 22, rather than 6 or 8 or 12, and you have insight, by all means, talk to your dad alone, talk to your mom alone, see if there's a way. But a lot of times there isn't. And that, the first and most important piece, of course, is to realize, as I said, not your fault. Nothing you could have done. Sometimes people just are not compatible, not meant to be together. Even if they're both wonderful people in their own ways. Sometimes people just are not meant to be together. But that doesn't mean that we as the child need to pull away from the relationship. So it's not a choice between save their marriage and don't have anything to do with them. You can absolutely maintain a relationship with them. They are your parents. But just have kind of a moratorium on, I don't want to talk about it. Once you've tried and you realize it's not going to work, you can absolutely, as an adult child, and you should, put your foot down and say, Mom, I don't want to hear any nonsense about Dad. Dad, I don't want to hear any nonsense about Mom. It'll actually be good for them. Because when we're fighting, we get so caught up that that's the only reality, that that's all we can talk about, it's all we can think about. And to actually have a child say, I don't want to hear it, creates space for them to realize that there is a life other than just the fighting that they're having with their spouse. So by all means, keep the relationship, stay in touch with them, but don't allow yourself to get pulled into a drama that you're not able to help. And that's part of growing up, because whether it's your parents, whether it's your friends, as we grow up in life, we have to learn how to find a balance between solving other people's problems, getting wrapped up in other people's problems, but also maintaining healthy relationships of love with people. And so you've been given this opportunity at a young age to learn it with your parents, and it'll stand you in very good stead as you grow to have this same relationship with other people. I love you. I'm here for you. I can't solve this problem. And no, I don't want to hear you talk nonsense about my mother, my father, my other friend. Let's talk about something else. And that's the habits that we learn of how to have healthy relationships in life, how to have boundaries. Just because you're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean that you become their garbage disposal or their garbage bag, that whatever is going on inside them, you have to take it. You absolutely can say, this isn't healthy. And as I said, that will actually help them. Because to simply criticize someone and to be stuck in negativity isn't helpful for either of your parents either. So you can help them in that way, even if you can't help save the marriage. You can help them each stay peaceful and grounded in the midst of a very difficult situation.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. The chakras that we have, and I already spoke about the Agya chakra, which is our third eye center, which is the energy center of the power of discrimination, the power to see truth from falsehood. But all of our chakras, these are the energy centers of the body. And he's asking, are they where our karma is stored? So, karma is that which comes with us. Some of it from lifetime to lifetime. We've got 3 different types of karma. The short term, medium term, long term. I won't go into all of that tonight because that's a whole lecture in and of itself, as is a lecture on the chakras. But what's important to realize is we are freed from blockages, whether they're energetic blockages that are being held in our energy centers, in our chakras, or blockages that are being held through our karma, through our spiritual practice. So, If my chakras are blocked, if my energy centers are blocked, and I practice meditation, and I practice prayer, and I practice seva, and I get myself awakened, open, because remember, the ultimate goal of a spiritual practice is openness, freedom, full freedom. Any way that we're being blocked is a hindrance on the path. And so if I'm being blocked by ego, if I'm being blocked by anger, if I'm being blocked by greed, if I'm being blocked by lust, if I'm being blocked by repressed emotions, that's going to keep me stuck. It's going to keep me from living as the truth of who I am. And this is where, as we work with the chakras, and we allow the release to happen, as we allow the opening to happen, it frees us to be, fully in the truth of who we are. Regardless of where I'm stuck along the way, it's holding me back. Whether it's holding me back from myself, it's holding me back from awakening, it's holding me back from knowledge, it's holding me back from experience, it's holding me back in all these ways. That constriction is what we work on as we open our energy body. So as we open the chakras, and as we awaken and awaken and awaken and awaken and get freer and freer and freer, we become more able then to take the steps to see with clarity how we are supposed to move in our lives. I always say we don't know what to do because we don't know who we are. And a lot of the reasons we don't know who we are is because our energy is stuck. As we work with the chakras in different ways, as they open, as they become free, we start to actually have access to wisdom, access to experience, access to energy, access to power that we never had before. As that happens, we are able to become free from a lot of the ways that karma binds us as well. Now, is it all stored in our chakras? No. So for example, let's say I'm thirsty and I drink a glass of water. Well, immediately, karma's action. The word karma literally means action. So my action is to drink the glass of water. Now, the result of that action, the fruit of that karma, is immediate. My thirst is quenched. Didn't need to get stored in a chakra anywhere, didn't need to get held on to a next life. Immediately. But some actions, some karmas, have what we call longer term results. Puja Swamiji speaks about it as a long-term CD or long-term FDR. Right? There's some FDRs, or in America we call them CDs. You put money in the bank. Some you get in 3 months. Matures in 3 months. Some it's going to mature in 3 years. Some it'll mature in 10 years. So some of our karmas, some of our actions give immediate results. Drank water, thirst quenched. Or in a not so nice example, walking down the street, meet someone, hit him in the face, he hits me right back. Okay? I did a karma, I got the result. Or hit him in the face, get arrested. Right? Whatever it may be. I did something, immediate result. But then there are actions that actually take much longer to bear fruit. And these are our medium and our long-term karmas. And some of them may bear fruit only in a next life. This is where we have to keep taking birth until that karmic bank account gets cleared. Good actions, positive actions, actions of truth, actions of openness, actions of oneness, actions of love are going to bear results of openness, of love, of truth. We speak about good and bad, but it's not. The universe doesn't have any preference, right? So we would say health is good, sickness is bad, wealth is good, poverty is bad. So people who get wealth, who have good health, who have good success, say, oh, this must be, good karma. But it's not that. The universe is giving you results of your actions, neither good nor bad, but simply results. You plant an apple seed, you get an apple tree. You like apples, it seems like a good result. You don't like apples, it seems like a bad result. But the universe isn't saying you were good, you were bad. It's just giving you a result. But it's also giving us exactly what we need to take our next step closer to God, our next step of awakening. And so whatever comes to us in karma is not a punishment, it's not a reward. It's exactly what is most conducive for us to take our next step. So as our chakras get opened, several things happen. First of all, we stop acting in ignorance. We stop acting as the doer. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna makes it very clear that the only way to get free of this cycle of karma, because if doing positive things is going to give certain results, if doing negative things is going to give different results, if they don't cancel each other out, how do you get out of this? Right? So this is what Arjuna says, well, God, if I'm going to do this and get a good result, and I do that, I'm going to have a bad result. How do I get out of this? I'm going to have to keep coming back. And this is where Lord Krishna explains so beautifully that the only way out of that cycle is to realize you're not the doer. You can't stop acting. And if every action is going to give me a karmic fruit, and I can't stop acting, it means I'm just going to keep acquiring fruits. I'm going to have to just keep coming back to eat them. Some will be sweet, some will be bitter. But what's the solution? And this is where Lord Krishna says, just surrender to me. Realize you're not the doer. Stop acting from a place of doership and start acting from a place of total surrender. Realize you are a tool, an instrument in God's hands. Act like that. Do your duty, fulfill your dharma, which is to be that instrument. But that is something that only when our chakras get open are we able to do, because otherwise I'm in the grips of fear, I'm in the grips of lust, I'm in the grips of repression, I'm in the grips of all of these stagnant emotions, tendencies, habits, repression, anger, all of this. I've got all of this repressed, stagnant energy. And so I act based on that rather than act from a place of freedom. And so the opening of the chakras frees us. You know, it's tragically ironic. A lot of times people will say, well, I don't want to surrender. Like, I want to be in charge. This surrender thing doesn't sound good, doesn't feel good. I don't want to surrender. I want my autonomy. And what's tragically ironic about it is until we surrender to the divine, we're actually slaves. We're slaves to our ignorance. We're slaves to our emotions. We're slaves to our habits. We're slaves to our subconscious programming. We're slaves to our fears. We're slaves to our desires. We're slaves to all of the identities that we've constructed. And it's actually only in surrendering to the divine that we're able to become free of that. Because as we surrender to the divine flow and it flows through us, it actually washes away. And that's the other way through. So one way in is I'm going to do meditation and yoga that's going to work on opening my chakras. I'll then become free and open. And I then can be connected to the divine and free from this cycle of karma. Another way in is to say, I'm going to just surrender completely. Everything I am, everything I do, everything I have, every minute, my mantra is just going to be surrender, 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 surrender. As I surrender, I become a vessel for the divine flow. As I become a vessel for the divine flow and it flows through me, it automatically washes through places where I'm stuck. And it automatically opens me. That's what happened to me. I had never done any meditation, any type of sadhana. And I had this, as many of you know, this just divinely gifted experience of connection to God that brought about in me such a complete surrender that just said, whatever you say, just take me, use me, let me just be connected to you. Let me just be a vessel for you. That became literally my only prayer. And I ended up having so many experiences of having the chakras just literally blasted open, of having energy just flow through my body in the most extraordinary way. And I know it's not me. I've spoken to so many people who have had experiences like this just from complete surrender to God. So you can actually go in either way. Go in through surrender, you'll be used. That energy will flow through you. Then things will take care of themselves. Or go in through the actual work of the chakras. It'll clear you. You'll become a vessel. You'll become a channel. The flow will come through. Either way in. So either way works. It doesn't matter. What matters most is to say, okay, right here in this moment, this is the karmic package I have. This is what I've been given. This physical body, this set of circumstances in my life. How can I, using all the tools at my disposal, my awareness, my gyan, wisdom, my yearning for more gyan, that what we call jigyasya, that desire to know, which has brought you all here into satsang, that yearning to know, that yearning to dive into truth. I use that. I use my devotion, my love, use my practice, my meditation, my yoga, my seva. Use whatever I can to take this current situation I'm in, this current karmic package, and to use it to become free. To use it to accept fully and completely this amazing opportunity, this amazing invitation that the divine universe has given us to connect with it. I mean, it's literally like this divine universe, the divine is standing here going, yes, I'm here, come, come, come. Right? I mean, you know the games that we play with little kids who love us, right? We say, come here, and the kid is just learning to walk, wobbles, wobbles, wobbles over, and to give the big hug. Kids jump into parents' arms in swimming pools. Come, come, jump, it's okay, I'll catch you. I've got you. So literally, the divine is come. And we're over here. And we're suffering. And our eyes are closed. And we're all worried about all of these aspects of our suffering. And what all of this gives us, all the different paths of yoga, when we say Gyan and Bhakti and Karma Yoga, our sadhana, all of this, what it gives us is a way to actually come into the arms of the divine. To actually accept that opportunity. And to become one. To become one in love, one in spirit, one in soul. So however you do it, they're all taking us to the same place. This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week. And I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.